I was asked to look at how one could apply the tools of land value capture. I've drawn in part on research I did published through the Town and Country Planning Association, the TCPA, and you can get that and a whole lot more on the Urbed Trust website. I should emphasize, by the way, the Urbed Trust is separate from the Urbed Co-op, and the Urbed Co-op does design and master planning work from its office in Manchester. I'm the remains of the old Urbed. And I've been concerned about how communities can harness land value to produce much better places. This diagram is taken from a wonderful book which is available as a free download from the World Bank Group by Mr. Suzuki, and it shows how the basic land value should compensate landowners for what they do to improve their land, but everything else should be shared either with the government or with the area, the community in the area where the development takes place. And in particular, they look at how to fund transit systems out of land value capture. And I will be returning to that. This diagram tries to show how different kinds of land produce very different returns. So the land value potential is greatest, in fact, on urban infill sites, and also where regeneration, where extensions are being undertaken. But when it comes to new settlements, don't expect to make anything because the costs will be greater than the value generated. Land value capture offers a range of benefits. It can help reduce sprawl, it can boost productivity, and it can help to create social justice. And in my pictures, I've showed not only Singapore, which is an excellent model where the city owns most of the land and has used that to finance a superb transit system. Copenhagen as one of the most attractive places to live and work. It wasn't always so. It is a city which has regenerated itself over the last 30 or 40 years. And the city itself has managed to provide new housing in a new town, only about 6 minutes by metro from the city centre. That's called Ørestad. And the development of the metro, the first line, was financed out of the land value capture. This was a former barracks, a military site, and the public land in Copenhagen has been pooled. That is, all the different public owners have put their land together in a company which then secures development and will then parcel out sites to different developers. And this approach has also, similar approach has been applied in the second city, Aarhus, and you can see this wonderful scheme on the former port which the city acquired, and then has again got a range of developers operating, and again a metro has been built. And I think the important point about this is how the city buys up land on the outskirts so that it can benefit from the uplift in land values when sites are developed and when infrastructure is put in. Germany, you all know Freiburg. And the model schemes on its edges of Rieselfeld, a former sewage works, and Vauban, which is the former barracks. But you may not have seen the development framework, the design codes. And I love to show this picture because all the principles are set out on one piece of paper. So they've produced a most wonderful organic scheme with masses of different development groups called Baugruppen, cooperatives, if you like, working to develop sites, but all within an area which the local authority had assembled and then borrowed the money to upgrade the infrastructure. The city has been kept compact, so they've been able to resist development outside the city, which would have weakened the value. And you can see from that chart, if you investigate it, that in fact car use has been held constant and bike use and public transport has increased. The best model of all, but which I touch on in my paper, is Holland, which has built something like 100 new suburbs around the Green Heart and beyond. And I particularly deal with Vathorst in Amersfoort. And you've got a very high quality public realm, because again the land was pooled and acquired at a value which meant it was possible to put in good infrastructure. And the picture on the right shows a group from Cambridge looking and learning, and then the lessons have been applied in Cambridge in development around the area. The British example on the whole, however, is a warning of what happens when development gets out of control. House prices have escalated, but house construction has stayed constant ever since local authorities were effectively stopped from building. And so the challenge has been how to change that situation. And there are some good models, even in the UK. This, by the way, is the cover of the book I referred to. In Docklands, the Development Corporation there effectively pooled the land. It took over all the publicly owned land from the port and the gasworks, and was then able to finance putting in the Docklands Light Railway, which opened this land up, and it's been progressively developed. And it's really changed the whole nature of London. It's shifted development over to the east. King's Cross, more recent example, which is explained in the book on financing transit-oriented development. And there the government, after a failed scheme by a private developer, I worked on it and I remember them going bankrupt, put the land together and then appointed a relatively small developer to promote the scheme. And you've got, I think, a scheme of exceptional urban quality. This and many other case studies are written up in a report called Capital Gains that we did for the Greater London Authority. We've applied a lot of these principles in a scheme called Ooster Garden City, tested out in Oxford. This shows, if you like, one of the urban extensions that we proposed, and how the whole area could be linked together by high-quality transit system. And in the submission that won the Wolfson Economics Prize in 2014, we were able to show that the uplift in land values would pay for building a tram line out to service the extensions here. And we propose starting by making better use of the existing railway lines. And we're still, some 5 years on, we're still battling, or I'm still battling to try and get those principles applied. My final slide shows what I call the ABC of development. And here is a simple formula which Tommaso has proposed, that if you add LVC, land value capture, to these informal soft tools, which I illustrated in particular in Vauban, which, by the way, arose out of a community initiative, people who were opposed to building new atomic power station. If you have the ambition of community engagement plus local leadership, in other words, there's got to be a proactive role for the local authority or possibly a development corporation. If you then broker the various interests, you put a deal together, a quality deal, which means public land assembly of some kind. You've got to have entrepreneurial planners who can negotiate, plus cooperatives. It's worth mentioning that Vatos, which I love in Amersfoort, 60% of the population, I think it was, were opposed to the development. It took an alderman to persuade them that if they just opposed it, something would happen, but it would be bad quality. If they went along with the local authority, taking the initiative, then they get something of real quality in the end. So brokerage and balance. And finally, and the most important thing of all, is continuity and collaboration. You've got to work at these things, these big urban extensions, for 10 or 20 years, and that probably requires a development agency so that you're not a victim of political swings, plus stewardship of the public realm, some mechanism to ensure that there's ongoing maintenance, which means, in my view, ensuring that the value that is normally just taken by the house buyers is ploughed, some of that is ploughed back in maintenance.